Good morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. It is Thursday, the 18th of September. This video is for educational purpose only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. It's purely to demonstrate how I try to read the market and using technical analysis and my experience. Today we'll start with Nvidia that yesterday tested the support here again at 168.80. It has been below, so we are about to establish a bearish trend. There's negative sentiment on the RSI that was established a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. I closed below here, the lows from yesterday, and the 168.80 could further add to that picture, and especially if it takes out the lows here from a couple of weeks ago at 164. And we can see here that we had this these two bearish engulfings here, especially this one, but to some extent this one, but this one here. And we had this doji up there with the spike up there, the all-time highs, I believe it was, or very close to at least. So we can see that it is looking very toppish for Nvidia and also some semiconductors. We can see how stretched it was here, also on the RSI. However, it is still above the supports. It's still in the cloud, so I'll say neutral, but with a negative sentiment. So we could see it sliding lower here in the coming days and weeks. The overall market yesterday was quite volatile, as can be seen here on the index, Nasdaq 100 index. We can see, and that was that occurred when the rate cut decision came from the Fed or FOMC meeting there. Then massive sell-off, and then it bounced back. So that's also shows a little bit of resilience in the market in general. So I think, and what we can see here, pre-market actually picking up again and now trading a new all-time highs here pre-market. So let's see if that will also play out during today's sessions. I think it will. We are still positive sentiment, obviously. There is currently no top and reversal indication. If we are looking at the other indices, we have the S&P 500, also quite volatile yesterday, as you can see, and the Dow Jones also volatile, but settled on a fairly positive note, so still in a bullish trend, but there is divergence on the RSI indicating trend exhaustion, but for now the trend is intact. We can also see here US 500 pre-market pushing higher, and I think that will play out throughout the day. If we take the Nasdaq 100, well, it will still stay intact, the bullish trend. If we stay above 23,698, it will be demolished and back in neutral if it closes below. Moving on to the Asian market, also extremely volatile this morning here. See, look at that. It spiked up to the 200% of this correction here. And then it sat back and spiked lower, and then it settles with 1.25% lower for Hang Seng. So it looks a little bit toppish. Let's see if there's a bit divergence there. Slightly, we see these tops here are or peaks, they are declining, market move higher. So maybe we are short term in a little bit of exhaustion. We should have a little bit of setback, maybe down to 26,000. But if US ends on a positive note today, maybe then I can help Hang Seng a little bit. The Nikkei futures pushing higher this morning here and has reached 161.8 projection of this correction here, and it seems very strong. There's slightly divergence, but I think we will see it pushing higher here in the coming days and weeks towards 46,000, possibly higher. On the European market, well, this morning market has opened, and EuroStoxx50 is trying at another time maybe to get up to that resistance here at 5,444 after bouncing from the 55 moving average. And let's just have a quick look at the CFD. You can see also it bounces So it is trying to establish a bullish trend in this bounce here. What is not in a bullish trend, interestingly, is DAX that Tuesday closed below the support there, and also yesterday. This morning it is bouncing back very strongly. 117 it is trading at. Percent higher from yesterday, but we are actually in a negative sentiment. We are in a bearish trend. Let's see if there's some divergence here on the RSIs. There is actually slightly, so maybe we could see a little bit, but it needs to get above 24,064 to establish a bullish trend. On the FX market, also quite volatile. We had euro dollar Tuesday pushing higher, went straight through the resistance there at above 118, pushed almost up to the 138.2 projection of this correction there, but we were above 119, and then the something happened in the USA with the rate cut and some comments, and it set back, and now it's testing this here 117.90 again, this support here. We are in a positive sentiment, we are in a bullish trend, so we could see we should see your dollar pushing higher in the coming days and weeks, but let's see about that. Also volatile in cable or sterling dollar, almost up to 137.45. Then it set back, but RSI closed above 60 threshold, so we are in a positive sentiment. Could crawl higher, but testing now the support there at 135.90 that it's bounced from, so I think we'll see it crawling high. If it takes out that spike down here, and that was at 135.86, so if it takes it out, then we could get back to 135. Euro sterling, well, didn't do much really, still in this between 87.15 and these lows here at 86.35 ish, but it is the key still 86 level flat. That is the really key support. Dollar yen also volatile yesterday, sold off a little bit, testing the lower rising trend line, went yesterday straight through minor support there and stronger support here at 145.70, only to bounce strongly, so we're still stuck in this range here, and RSI didn't close below 40 threshold, so we are still boxed in between the 100 and the 200 moving average with a slightly bearish undertone. Euro yen this morning seems to be crawling above the resistance at 173.95, so just below 174. I think it will climb higher. Positive sentiment on the RSI is indicating that we have a bullish trend building up here. So if it can stay above, well, then there's potential up to 175.5, possibly higher to 176.5. Aussie yen seems to we have a bit of correction. How big it will be, well, that's the key question. Will it just test the previous peak that it broke above of here at 97.40 and then bounce? I still believe we have potential up to around 99.5 area, given the fact that we have positive sentiment on the RSI. And we are in a bullish trend still, so I think we could get up there. However, if it takes out the lows from yesterday, we could see it setting back to the 38.2 retracement at 96.88 area. Sterling yen, well, hovering around the 200 and just above it. We are in a slightly bullish trend here, short-term positive sentiment, so I think we will see it crawling higher in the coming days and weeks, but it's not that convincing. But as you can see, it's really straightforward. It's really key area, a lot of interest, but there is now a potential higher for sterling yen. Aussie dollar, massive sell-off yesterday, continued this morning here, dipped below the previous peak here at 66.25. That is now a support, can still dip back to, and let's just zoom out so we can see what's going on. 38.2 retracement, just around 66, but I'm not quite sure it will do that. Positive sentiment on the RSI, no divergence, indicating likely higher levels. And let's have a look at the weekly chart to see, well, there's actually potential up to 69. I'm not saying we'll get there tomorrow, but it seems like that's where we are headed slowly. But we have the 200 weekly moving average coming down there. That will add to the resistance. So it can be a little bit of struggle here around 67 area. The dollar Canada, once again, almost touched the key support here at 137.20. You can see 1, 2, and few pips from it yesterday, and then it bounced. RSI also bounced from the 40 threshold, so I think it will pick up. However, if it does close below 137.20 and especially below the cloud, well, then we have a kind of a shoulder pattern going on with the neckline here. So keep an eye on that, what's going on here the next few days going into next week, or will it bounce back and establish that bullish trend? I still believe we could get up to 140, but I'm not quite sure that is the case. I want proof. I wanted to take out this 139 spike there first, and for now that is the key support there that should be observed. What will happen with that? Sterling Canada spiked a little bit above the previous peak there yesterday, so you see extremely volatile, sometimes hard to read when it's such volatile. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a correction down to the 38.2 retracement, but looking at the bigger picture, let's have a look at that. You can see very strong, consistent bullish trend here, Sterling Canada, and I think it will slowly crawl higher towards new peaks, 189, 189.50, but it is a very volatile to trade. So if you're intraday trader, maybe there's a more fun in it, but it's also a more high risk. EURSwiss dipped below yesterday and opened this morning here below the support. What we can see here, and that is also something you sometimes should see, it actually touched that and just a bit below. So at around 93.15, 18 here, we can see there is some support, but we actually do have established a bearish trend, but it's not confirmed with RSI still above 40 threshold. Didn't close below here during yesterday's session, so it can still bounce a little bit, but also key lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So we are actually in the band, we are below the cloud, so we should push lower, but there seems to be some strong interest keeping it up above the 93 and a bit. Dollar Swiss, massive sell-off there Tuesday, bounced somewhat yesterday, but we are in a bearish trend, could push lower, negative sentiment on the RSI, and also in the weekly we'll see lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, and there is a potential down to around 77.80, 77.5 in that region there, possibly lower, but let's see. It could also be that we get a little bit of a counter trend, can still bounce up to maybe test the falling trend line. I'm not quite sure it will do that, but for now stay cautious. If it starts pushing below here again, and also take out that spike down there, and then we will have lower levels. Dollar Canada, sorry, dollar index, of course. Dollar index, almost same picture, spiked almost down to this level here. But what we can do, we can just reuse this one and say we were very close and actually dip below the previous lows there. So we are still also here in a bearish scenario, negative sentiment on the RSI, likely to push lower, and there's potential down to around 95 area, unless maybe this is an exhaustion and we'll have a bounce, but we need more data for that. So for now, still bearish potential to 95, possibly lower. On the commodities front and the precious metals and metals in general, because we're also looking at copper in a little while. So it seemed like we were to have a correction back here after this little shooting star like candle here, but it was demolished on the 15th, and then so okay, let's crawl higher and let's have a look at the weekly where we talked about it could move to, and it got almost up to that 786 extension of this triangle-like pattern, just a few pips from it, just a few, about $7 or something like that. So very close to it was a spike. So is now the time for a correction? Possibly. And how big could that be? Well, I'm not quite sure it will get all the way down there, but we can see it has moved very far away from all its moving averages, and they have to meet and catch up eventually. So we could get a correction there, but look at this. There is no divergence on the RSI indicating likely higher levels on gold, so be careful. I would put in a little minor support there at 36.13. If it goes below that, well, then we could see that correction down to around the 3,556, which is the 38.2 correction. But the underlying trend is bullish, and the underlying sentiment also positive. Silver, also sitting back in a little bit of a correction. However, you can see there's a little spike up there, so there's no divergence on the RSI indicating likely higher levels. I still believe we'll see it higher. I talked about we could get up to 43.25, possibly 44.25 in this range here. We were very close to the other day, but a little bit of correction here. I still believe we will see it pushing higher in a couple of weeks, but extremely volatile, as we can also see. Platinum can't really make up its mind what it really want to do. You can see it spiked almost up to that 786 retracement once again. So basically trading sideways. So what I will do, I will add another trend line there and say that is the range. Maybe a little bit tighter than that, but still that is the range to break out of. The 1447 to the upside and 1323 to the downside. On the energy market, well, you can see that crude oil, WTI crude oil, has broken its falling trend line. It's not the strongest one anyway, but it's been rejected here at the 100 moving average. We also have the 55 that coming down, and we're still in negative sentiment. I still think we will see it sliding lower, but for now it got a little bit of life breath into it. I think it will be rejected here, and I think that 55 in next week possibly will break below the 100 moving average, and that will add to the negative picture. We also see the 200 declining there, so we are in a slightly bearish trend. Brent crude oil, key support at 65 as usual. Little bit different picture. Got above 100, also above 55, but I think it will slide lower. However, if it moves back above 69.53, well, maybe it could have a little bit potential, a little bit higher, but still the 200 will give it a hard time. But you see how it spiked above 200 here, and but I think it will be short-lived if it do that. It really needs to get above 63 to establish a real bullish trend, at least short to medium term. The European nat gas, really not much to say. Bounced from the 786 retracement there at 31.60. But also in a bearish trend. You see all moving averages declining, negative sentiment on the RSI. It needs to get back above 33.90 to establish a bullish trend. The US nat gas coming up here. Bounced from the support there, we talked about it the other day, and key resistance there at 320. So still negative sentiment, but it needs to close up above therefore to establish bullish trend. And if it takes out 285, well, then bearish move is back in session. And this is all we talked about yesterday. Not all, but a lot of yesterday on the markets, the interest rate and yields. So we got a new dip below 4%. slightly lower than the other one, and then a bounce. I still believe we will see a correction up to at least 412, possibly up to around 420. Divergence on the RSI, you can see RSI values are rising, market moved lower, and we have now twice where it bounced from 4%. Seems like 4% really is a key level, but if it's taken out, then we are looking at levels around 385. These spikes down here and possibly lower. But for now, I think we will see that bounce there. The European yields, well, has been sliding back there. Couldn't really bounce higher, and we shouldn't be sorry about that here in Europe for sure. So that will be the, what I will do. I will add a, where is it? There we are. So it seems like we have some resistance there around 272 and support at 263. So breakout to the upper side. There's potential back to the 280 to the downside. Well, then we're looking at 260, possibly lower. The UK 10, well, not really doing much, between 459 and 470. Japanese 10 reached the 61.8, got set back a little bit. We're still in bouncing mode. I still think it will crawl higher, and if it takes out the peaks here, then I think we will see it pushing higher in the coming weeks. Positive sentiment on the RSI indicating likely higher levels. Bitcoin testing 61.8 retracement there at 117,930. RSI back above 60 threshold, broken the falling trend line there, and could push higher if it takes out this resistance. If it moves above 118,000, then we are looking at 120, 121 levels, 120,835, which is 786 retracement should be seen unless it slides back below 114,000. Ethereum, a little bit more volatile there, but as long as it stays above 4,060, we are in a bullish scenario. But currently here, short term, we are in a slightly, I would say just neutral. If it takes out the spike up there about last week at 47.69, then I think we'll see a new high. If it takes out the 4200, this key support here could be challenged. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day and talk to you again tomorrow.